Well, didn't this game mislead me? And they obviously took the feedback from Remake and they took that personally, because Chapter 2 is utter, widespread, open world, everything you want that you were looking for, everything that was missing from the first one is just thrust upon you immediately. And they're like, oh, you were doing the story? Well, what if you just didn't do that anymore for like a really long time? And what if we take what was a kind of goofy character of the first game, little Chadley, who was providing us with Fort Condor stuff and some battle simulations and stuff. And what if we just made Chadley like the main character of the game and also introduced a partner in Chadlette? I don't know her name. Mai, I think she's called Mai, who is just the gender swapped version of Chadley to also back this up. What did this game become? And I now see why people are like, yo, so just letting you know, Rebirth is like 150 hours of game. Yes. Okay. So Chapter 2 was very light on main story, which was fine, because it did introduce us to the giant open world, of which it's kind of... I'm torn on it so far. Alright, so let me explain what it is, and then I'll explain my current thought process with it. It turned straight up into a very classic Ubisoft game, complete with towers to explore, which unlock things to do in this giant map where you can go and explore. It's still following the FF7 OG situation of like Midgard Somas blocking the paths into the caves. You're going to have to find a way over there, which is get the Chocobo. You still do that. But on top of that, it's like a mix of like FF15's first zones, or only zone, I guess would be more appropriate, of just like a bunch of stuff to go and do, which likely includes very, very powerful rewards if you want to invest the time into doing all these things. And there's a lot. There is a huge amount of things. If I can remember from memory, there's Mughal camps where you have this ridiculously cutesy, whimsical, and the whimsy is back, certainly from FF16, the whimsy is back, of chasing and hounding the Mughals, and then they unlock the Mughal store, and then if you find Mughal coins, you can trade them in for stuff there, and there appears to be some very good stuff in there, like armor upgrades, weapon skill upgrades, all sorts of stuff. And you find them by random in some places. They're in crates that are just dotted about the world, and they're generally located near a place of interest that you should find, these points of interest. There is lore stuff from these crystals that Chadley wants to find, and then you can go into his own section of Chadley where he'll then just tell you history of the area and do all those kind of things. Then there is an ongoing story that proceeds throughout the map that seems to be following the raiders from Remake who were hiding out in the sewers, and then you can follow them around on a bit of a tail because they found something cool, and then they're going to be in one spot, and then they move to another spot, and they move to another spot. Then there is Fiends and Hunts, where you have combat challenges, which will be like, hey, you have to defeat these enemies with fulfilling certain requirements, and then you get rewards for that, and some more Chadley points, which Chadley points lead to powerful materia. Then you have Archaeology, which is ripped from 9. I want to say it's 9, where we have the Chocobo hunting, where you went around and sniffed the floor and you can find rewards, and that's now in this game as well. As you go around to these areas, and it's like you've got to use the sniffer on the Chocobo, and then you've got the Chocobo to scrounge up what's on the floor. I think there's more. And every single time that you do one of these things, Chadley calls you over and over again. And just when you think you've had enough Chadley, Mai calls you and tells you the same stuff over and over and over again. And it's relentless. And I wanted to stab him in the face so badly. Shut up, Chadley. Shut the hell up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. There's a lot here for people to sink their teeth into. It started to look a lot more like a Legend of Zelda game than an FF game for the most part. Lots of mini games, match colors, move things around, all kinds of stuff is going on. Now, there is a huge amount of this. On top of that, they've also thrown in a new card game. So Fort Condor is gone. I can't remember the name of this card game, but there's another one. It's like Blood and something that you can also do, which I did do in Remake. I did do all the Fort Condors and unlocked everything. But that's here as well. I've spent probably 4 hours, I would think, in the first zone, and I'm not halfway done with the task, because they also give you a progress bar. It's like, oh, you've completed another one, you completed another one. But there's more and more stuff to do. Now, my thoughts on this. I'm going to mess around in the first zone and see exactly what this gets us. Is it remotely worth our time, or is it just a lot of busy work where at the end of it they do stick a powerful reward, but the journey is just not really that fun? It's more of a time, you know, a time sapper. You can get the best weapon in the game, but it's going to take you like an extra like 1,000 hours to do all this kind of stuff, right? It's just going to suck your life away. This is great. This is always the situation with these things. This is really wonderful for people who are like getting 1 or 2 games a year, which is how I used to be that way. It's not quite the scenario these days with things like Game Pass and even the timid PlayStation Plus, or the fact that there's just so many great and wonderful free-to-play games out there that just have hundreds of hours, including FF14, of content for you to just dive into and have fun with. It's a difficult sell these days, I think, to assume these people are out there en masse who are like, I buy one game, like, in maybe January, and then I don't buy another one till maybe even August, and therefore a game that consumes hundreds of hours is a requirement, as opposed to, this is just something I love, and so I'm going to spend all the time, and I'm a completionist and do all those kinds of things. I'm going to do the first zone, and then, like, have this war with Chadley, because Chadley must be defeated. Because the interesting thing about Chadley is he is still doing the combat simulations. Interesting take on them this time is you unlock, the first one we got was Titan. You unlock the ability to fight Titan at full might, is what they call it, immediately, which is Titan without any nerfs, I guess you would say. And then there's 3 levels of nerfs which are applied to Titan based on what you do in the zone, and then once you do those things, you can then say, I will fight Titan with 1 nerf, 2 nerfs, or 3 nerfs, and then you'll have a significantly easier time. Now, obviously, a bit of stubborn mic engaged. We actually got the rhythm down of this fight reasonably well. This was a good way, and I always look for these moments of where I'm actually tested in combat to get used to all these different systems. We did pretty well. We got into 50% on full might with our level 16 team, I think it was, which was lacking all the tools, I mean literally all the tools that you are supposed to have to do these kind of things, such as the synergy attacks, which give you infinite mana. A lot of things were missing. In fact, I just found a huge success with Red 13, who is built to dodge and immune things, and allowing him to go into vengeance mode for self-healing, because the rest of my characters literally could not survive the just passive damage they would collect during the fight and out-heal it. Even putting, like, Aerith on healing with, like, auto-cast and mana draining with her, she just couldn't keep up with the sheer amount of damage that was happening on them. And even swapping to another character for even momentarily would get them killed. But we did pretty well. Got to, like, 50%, which was, like, a harder phase. And had to leave it there. I think I just need a little... I could do with the synergies and things that we can counter a lot of what's happening here. Because one thing that seems very different to me, I'd have to go back and check the VODs. In Remake, your characters you weren't focused on primarily would generate ATB and limit breaks at a pretty reasonable rate. I don't know whether it's because we're so low level, but this time they just don't. They're just, like, around and doing stuff, but they're kind of pointless, and they just don't provide anything. Like, I remember the end game of Remake where I was able to, like, swap between the characters pretty regularly to fire off their limit breaks, use their ATBs really quickly, and swap back without risk of them just being annihilated. So that probably will happen with levels. So I left it alone there. I gave it like an hour and a half of tries. I love overcoming these kinds of challenges, but it seemed a little insurmountable. We did very well. I got extremely good at, like, perfect parrying, which nullifies all damage, but there's a lot of attacks that need to be dealt with, so it was pretty tough. That was kind of fun, and that's something I do want to invest some time into, but probably a little bit of work needed there. So far, pretty good. One question that has arisen, I haven't made a choice on this yet, is a significant portion of our audience are waiting for the PC release. So I'm just going to put this out there now as a thought that's going in my head, which means they're like, I can't watch this. Now, as a stream that has built a backbone on no spoilers, we respect spoiler territory and all that, and the PS5, this old trusty box right here, being something that just not many people have access to, or a desire to own, in fact, because they're PC gamers. We may I might put a halt to Rebirth for a while until it's out on PC. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, but not at the detriment of people's enjoyment of what we do on a day-to-day basis. That's kind of mean. I'm not saying I'm going to do that. It's just something that's in my head. I'm seeing a lot of that is like, yo, really hope you're having a good time. I can't watch any of this because I'm waiting for the PC release, which is understandable and probably a lesson learned for us if we do decide to like, all right, let's put it on hold. We've got a lot of stuff to do anyway, and then we'll come back to it. But I haven't decided that yet as to what we're going to do. My game plan right now is I'm really going to like flesh out and see where this zone takes us and then progress the story to see where we go. And hopefully, I'm not worried about enjoying myself. I am enjoying myself. I would be a little disappointed if it turns out I was like, this is just all stuff you can do, absolutely not necessary or even that interesting to do after a while, and therefore let's just push on with the story, because I know a lot of people are like, you should need to play all the card games, you need to do all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But what a twist, what a turn this game has taken. It just went like, yeah, this is what you thought was going to happen. Corridors, right? Boom! Massive open world. Here's your Chocobo, and here's tons of millions of things of mini games and things to do. And I was like, aha, okay. All right, starting to look a little bit more familiar to me now. Starting to look a little bit more familiar, but we'll see where it goes. That's where we are right now. Chapter 2, and I've done 0 story. But I have interfaced with our friend Chadley many, many times. So I'll see you again. Bye, guys.